Hello and welcome to Ever Chosen Minis. Today we're going to be going over kind of model rescue. Usually you see this as eBay rescues, and people make some amazing stuff out of some pretty beat up models, whether they just be beat up from being old and have been used a long time or assembled wrong. There's a lot of things that can kind of go wrong with miniature building and painting, and these people really do an amazing job of bringing those come back to light. Now, what I'm going to be showing you is primarily how I deal with getting some models that come in some pretty rough shapes. Sometimes I work with it, sometimes you got to start from the ground up. This one wasn't too bad. This was something I got from meeting in person. We talked over Discord and Facebook saying, hey, I got these models, you got these models, let's go ahead and do a trade, which I think is something that is pretty universal amongst miniature collectors. People get a lot of stuff secondhand, so I think it's important to kind of talk about, when you get stuff like this, kind of what to do, how to fix it, and overall what the process is for getting those minis back on the table the way that you want them. So that's what we're going to dive into. Yeah, and we'll just start right now. Now, when you're getting miniatures secondhand, it's really important to ask for pictures. In certain cases, I haven't done that before. I'll send pictures of my stuff, and they'll just say, "Cool, I have this model. Do you want it?" Whenever they say they have a certain model, that usually comes with, the idea that the model is in normal shape. It's assembled kind of like the box says, neutral pose. Um, stuff like that. You don't typically when someone says something without giving you like a special descriptor for it, that it's gonna be messed up. So here is what I had to work with. I met the guy in person. He gave it to me all in a bag, so I didn't exactly check it on the spot, um, which is my fault partially. But I think that this is a pretty universal thing where you meet up, you do a quick swap because it's kind of awkward meeting in public or somewhere off Facebook where you pretty much just want to get in and out. So sometimes stuff like this slips through the crack. Even if you buy like a really big model lot, you might find a few of these. So just something to be aware of in the future whenever you get these. And sometimes you get them intentionally, knowing that you can fix them up. So it's not a problem at all. These models definitely still have a lot of potential. So looking here at this particular dreadnought that I acquired, we can see a few things wrong with it. The leg pretty much just popped off as soon as I touched it. It was, probably about to come off no matter what. Um, you can see that the armor plates on the back of the legs are assembled backwards. Those normally face forward, and that is on the back. Um, and even the tabs on the legs, as you can see, are posed with the tab that normally locks the pose in place outside of the socket. So the legs are kind of a hot mess. Um, the right arm, absolutely perfect, nothing wrong there. Has a little wibble to it just because it hasn't been glued all the way solid. Has the gun, uh, not a big deal. The front armor plate has two problems. One that it's just coming completely off. It's not actually glued in any particular place from the top, and you'll see a little gap where it was unfortunately plastic glued together, where normally the two pieces would sit flush and there wouldn't be that gap where that top armor panel kind of folds over the bottom one. So we have a quick little trick to get rid of that. And then the left arm, you can kind of put it into the hole, but it doesn't turn either way. So that will have to be filed down, clipped down so that it'll work. And then, of course, the elbow joint for that arm uh, isn't glued down at all, and it is going to need to be secured. So mostly what we're going to deal with is the legs, that front armor panel, and the left arm. Stuff here and there um, we can kind of ignore. And then, we have to figure out how we want to deal with that missing armor panel for the left arm. So that's kind of the base that we have to work with and what we're going to be going off from here. All right, first things first, let's go ahead and tackle this left leg here. So what we have to work with is kind of a rigid pose. They both got posed in the exact same way. Uh, Joint bent way too far forward, like the knees bending backwards. Um, and then, of course, that security tab, meaning we can't just put it in there. So we kind of brute force it a little bit. We twist it off um, so that we can actually get the joint removed from each other. And this just needs to be shaved down. I use my clippers a little bit, along with an X-Acto knife, just to kind of trim down the piece a little bit so that we can get it back in there. And we want this to be bending. Now, whenever you're rescuing one of these minis, you gotta kind of think of the big picture. How do you want it to end up? So, what we're going to be achieving here, I always say in all my miniatures that I want them to stick out to a certain degree, give them something a little special. So this dreadnought, because of how exaggerated these legs were put together, we're just going to keep the other one the same since it has a lot of forward momentum, and we're just going to bend this one so that we can achieve kind of a running pose. This dreadnought's going to be trudging through this battlefield that we're going to set up for it, and that's just going to give it a little bit more character, and it's going to make the other leg make more sense. So we're going to save ourselves a lot of hassle by just kind of working with this one leg, and then we can kind of move over to some other parts. We want to start securing things. I'm going to be putting plastic glue inside the joints that I want to secure, along with that front armor panel that kind of folds out. Because it's plastic glued, we can't exactly separate it and reattach it further down. So we'll be tackling that detail here in just a moment. So now that we've glued down a lot of the stuff that we need to be secure, we want to start fixing some of the more obvious problems. So for that left arm, we're going to end up clipping back the joint, just where it has those two sections that kind of come off the cylinder there that lock it in place. That's going to keep it from rotating from where it's been assembled now. So we just clip that off. By the time we glue everything at the end, it's not going to make any structural difference. So we're going to do that, and then we want to add on to the armor. So as you can see, uh, these kind of front-facing armor plates are a little bare, and we're even missing the armor on the left-hand side. So what I'm going to do is just add a few things to bulk it out a little bit, starting with the legs. They have their armor plates facing backwards, so the front looks a little bare. So I just have a few pieces of just kind of random scrap metal that's pretty much cylindrical from some other kits. These are from Orc kits specifically, but a lot of them just look like kind of riveted metal. So that's what we used here. I just cut the semicircles and put them as best I could on the front just to bulk them out a little bit. They're not perfect, but at a distance, they definitely kind of fit the bill as far as a believable piece of armor that's going to encase that. So that's what we're going to do there. I also found a Titan shield that I thought would look really cool on the front. So just to bulk that out, we're going to put that there so that we can decorate it later. I want this dreadnought to feel like a true kind of war-torn veteran who's been on this battlefield for so long. And then from there, we can start filling in some stuff. And I have an idea for the left-hand side. Since we don't have that armor panel, I want to do something a little special for it. All right, so on the left-hand side, as you can see, he is missing his shoulder armor that's supposed to protect the left-hand side from damage. That I just couldn't find anywhere in the bag he gave me. So instead, what we're going to do to substitute for that missing armor is make a shield for the Dreadnought. This is going to be kind of the big focal point of this model. It's going to be what makes it stand out from all other Redemptors, even other Imperial Fist Redemptor Dreadnoughts, is having this. So as you can see here, I have some random vehicle parts, usually just some doors from some rhinos. I believe that's some Imperial Guard armor bits as well in here. And we're just going to glue that with some plastic glue on top of kind of a supporting plastic piece. I'm not sure where that one came from. Pretty sure another Imperial Guard kit. But once all that dries, we're going to be adding a sculpted Imperial Fist detail on top of it. So we'll get into that and how I made it next. But as you can see, it's kind of starting to come together where we're getting some big, thick armor from that faceplate that I put on the front. And then we also have the shield. So it's going to start bulking this thing out and making it look more like a bastion, like the Imperial Fist would want. Now, for most rescues, this step is pretty necessary most of the time. It is a really amazing tool, and I think a lot of people are scared of it. Green stuff kind of has a reputation for being this miracle substance that people sculpt with, but I don't actually see a lot of people do it because they think it's hard or they think that it's something that they're going to mess up. But I am by no means a great sculptor, and I'm just going to show you what you can do with it here. Uh, you know, I get filling in gaps and stuff is used pretty common, but if you actually want to make some nice detailing, I'm here to show you that it's not that hard. So as you can see here, I've just rolled out some green stuff. I'm kind of getting it on the general shape of this acrylic circle that I want to be the center of the shield. And we're just making the Imperial Fist crest, just that fist with kind of the pentagon on the bottom of it. So as you can see here, I'm just kind of flattening it out, getting the general shape with my tool best that I can, and it's really forgiving. Green stuff has a pretty decent working time, so you can kind of fiddle with it, so you get the rough shape that you want. And hands are pretty hard artistically to make. They're usually something that people are kind of scared of. But anything that you want to make, just get a reference for. There's a ton of pictures of anything that you want to do out there, whether that be sculpting a new hand to help pose a model that you want, whether it be something like this icon. Really easy. And the more you do it, the better you're going to get. So this was kind of just like a leap of creativity for me, where I just decided that I wanted to kind of work on my green step sculpting. So as you can see here, we just kind of um, put the fingers and layer them over that fish shape. And this is just going to make little tiny sausages that we're going to sculpt a little bit after we are done placing them. So after they're all in, we're going to make the thumb and kind of roll that over. And then we can just shape our tool to kind of meld them together where it makes sense so that it kind of becomes a cohesive fist. And that's going to be the main focal point of our shield is that hand sculpted fist. So it's going to just be a really nice detail. And I really hope that, you guys want to try using green stuff in some of your things because I think it's a great way to make it stand out. And no one else is going to be able to sculpt that exact same thing that you did. So it's going to give it that unique personal touch as well. All right. Now we're going to start putting these pieces together. So what we want to do here is fill in that last gap while we have our green stuff out. We're just going to simply put down a little bit of green stuff into the hole between the armor plates here. And I just have a simple sculpting tool with a flat end, and I just flatten that out and take the excess off. So that's just a really easy way to fill that gap with green stuff. Simple step there. And we just want to attach the arm and leg that we're missing, get that pose, and give them plenty of time to dry. When we attach the shield, we want a really strong connection on the arm because if that hasn't set yet, then it's just going to start drooping and it's not going to come out the way you want. You're just going to be fighting against the model when you don't need to. So that'll kind of get it prepped. We'll leave that to dry and then we're going to attach the shield with 2 pins. Really easy. We're just going to drill 2 holes into the shield, 2 holes into the arm that match. And then from there, just pin it with the same size wire that you have laying around. And that's going to give it a really strong bond. And by doing 2 points, not only will it make it stronger, it'll keep you from having a pivoting point on the shield. So when it's drying, you won't have to fight it kind of drooping down and trying to spin, which would happen if you only had the one. So that's going to get everything assembled. We're going to put the crest on the shield really easy. We use the last of our green stuff behind it with some super glue, and that will just tighten that down and give us the whole shape of our shield. It'll look really good once it's painted here. It looks kind of weird, but from here we can start adding in the final details to this model. They're just going to add the smallest finishing touches. Now to finish out this model, we are going to just add a few details now that it's all dry. I have some Imperial symbols that I've gotten from some guard kits, the skull with the wings, and we're just going to put this in a few places on the shield just to kind of give it that industrial Imperial look that we need it to have, as well as some purity seals. Now, I say this for all kit bashing out there. If you make something from scratch and you want it to feel like the Imperium made it, finish it off with a few purity seals, and it will look like it came out of Warhammer. It is a tried and true method, works every time, and I think everyone should be using it. We're also going to be adding just a few more symbols here and there to the front armor piece. As you can see, I'm adding kind of a unique purity seal on top of the eagle, and that'll be just a few bits to spruce it up. And then we have this hobby chain. This is 2 scale chain. I'm just going to wrap it around the shield and glue it in place. This is going to, one, hide the seam between the 2 kind of armor panels that we glue together, as well as give it a cool industrial look. I think that it kind of does double duty here for the cool factor and hiding a bit of a boo-boo that we left behind from gluing the shield together. So this will be a really good way to deal with that. And moving on to our final detail here, I've been waiting to use these bits for a while. I got these, they've been sitting around, and it's kind of a small, kind of Japanese imperial flag um, that usually is just like a 2 scale little thing for your desk. But I trimmed it down here, drilled a hole, and now this dreadnought will have a glorious back banner to have into battle. So that's pretty much the kit bash. I'm kind of going to give my final thoughts on it, and kit bashing and kind of miniature rescue in general here. But if you want to know how to paint it, I have several Imperial Fist painting guides on my video. You can follow those steps. We're going to skip that for this particular video, and we're just going to show you some beauty shots here at the end. All right, thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. I hope that you kind of enjoyed the process of watching me get this thing from a pretty beat up model, assembled wrong, used plastic glue, just a laundry list of things that you don't want to see on models that you get secondhand, and turn it into what I think is a really unique and special dreadnought. We got a nice pose on it. We got a few standout features that are just going to put it head and shoulders above some of the other models of my army and other models that I might see on the tabletop. And I think it turned out well. Again, whenever you get these secondhand lots, a lot of the time you're going to find problems like this. Everyone assembles stuff differently. Some people take a lot of great care in their models. I've gotten some very pristine stuff that's even better than I would have done. More mold lines taken off than I would have. Uh, and you'll get those sometimes. But, just be prepared for the ones that come looking like this in your army lots. And don't be discouraged. As you saw here, it's pretty easy to fix and even easier to improve on if you're willing to put in a little extra effort. This whole kit bash probably took about 2 hours between waiting for stuff to dry, searching bits and stuff. It really didn't take all that long to put together. You can go as crazy as you want with these, file everything down perfectly, find perfect bits, but it's not always necessary. And I think it's important to show off some of these kit bashes and rescues that don't necessarily take all day to do. They're pretty easy fixes that you can use um, that will just enhance your models, save your models, and that's important to do. So if you found anything useful in this video, or if I inspired you to fix that model that you got, a few years ago from some guy who, gave you something, similar to this, then I'm happy I could do that for you. But thanks again for watching the video. Have a great rest of the day.